The ocean world of Aqualis stretched beyond the horizon like a never-ending mirror of blue. Waves rolled endlessly under a sky of silver clouds, and the sun gleamed on the surface like liquid fire. From above it looked peaceful. But the humans who had landed on this world knew the calm was only an illusion. Aqualis was famous for its deadly currents. Hidden beneath its surface, monstrous whirlpools twisted with enough power to tear ships apart. Paul stood on the deck of the small human vessel, watching the restless waters below. The crew had anchored close to a chain of floating reefs, one of the rare stable places to pause. His mission was simple: survey the planet for possible contact, study its resources, and report back. But Paul was not like the others in his crew. He had always felt drawn to challenges. Where others saw danger, he saw a test of courage. As he stared out, dark clouds began to gather. Winds shifted and the sea grew restless. The storm came fast. Rain lashed the deck and the vessel shook under the force of the waves. The crew shouted to secure the equipment, but Paul's eyes caught something strange in the distance. Amid the chaos of white foam, a shape moved in the water. At first he thought it was debris pulled by the current. But then he saw movement, frantic and desperate. It was a person struggling against the monstrous tide. His heart leapt. Whoever it was would not survive long in that current. Without waiting for orders, Paul strapped on a harness, tied a cable to the deck, and leapt into the storm. The cold hit him like a wall, but he forced himself forward, swimming hard toward the struggling figure. The waves tried to drag him under, but Paul was strong, and his determination pushed him forward. When he reached her, his eyes widened in shock. She was not human. Her skin shimmered faintly in shades of pale blue like moonlight on water. Her hair flowed like silver strands tangled by the storm. Fins ran along her arms and delicate gills opened and closed at her neck. She was clearly one of the ocean dwellers the crew had only heard about in old reports. She was also barely conscious, fighting to breathe as the current pulled her deeper. Paul wrapped his arm around her and pulled the cable, signaling the crew to reel them in. Every stroke was a battle, as if the sea itself wanted to claim them. But Paul refused to let go. He would not allow her to vanish into the abyss. When they finally broke the surface near the ship, hands reached down and hauled them aboard. Paul collapsed on the deck, coughing water, while the alien woman lay beside him, gasping weakly. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly with a strange inner light. She looked at Paul with a mixture of shock and confusion. The crew gathered around, staring. None of them had seen an alien up close before. The reports had said the ocean dwellers were secretive and hostile toward outsiders. Yet here one was, lying at their feet, saved by a human. "Who is she?" one of the crew whispered. Paul answered, still catching his breath. "She was drowning. I couldn't leave her." Before more questions could be asked, a new sound rose over the storm, the deep hum of approaching vessels. Out of the rain emerged sleek watercraft shaped like blades of silver, glowing with bioluminescent patterns. They were alien ships riding the waves with ease. The humans froze, unsure if they would be attacked. From the largest craft, a group of armored figures leapt onto the human vessel. Their weapons glowed with energy, and their eyes narrowed as they spotted the woman on the deck. "Princess Nira," one of them exclaimed in their language. Though Paul could understand enough through the translator device on his wrist, the soldiers rushed to her side, helping her sit up. She raised a hand weakly, pointing toward Paul. Her voice was soft but clear. "He saved me." The soldiers hesitated, glancing between their princess and the human. Their expressions hardened, but they did not strike. Instead, they lifted Nira carefully and carried her toward their vessel. She looked back at Paul as they moved, her eyes lingering on him with unspoken gratitude. Paul stood, still dripping water, as the alien craft pulled away. His crew whispered nervously, some angry, some fearful. "You should not have jumped in," his captain scolded. "You risked your life for one of them. They do not trust us, and now we may face trouble." Paul shook his head. "She was drowning. If I had turned away, what would that make us?" The argument ended as the storm faded, leaving the sea calm once more. But Paul could not shake the memory of her face. He had seen fear, relief, and something more in her eyes. That night, as the crew prepared to leave the reef, more alien ships appeared. This time, they did not come with weapons raised. Instead, a formal envoy boarded the human vessel. Their leader, tall and stern, spoke in a measured tone. "You saved Princess Nira from the monstrous current," he said. "Such an act cannot be ignored. You are summoned to the court of Aqualis. The crew exchanged worried glances. They had never expected an invitation, let alone from royalty. Paul, however, felt a strange pull in his chest. He did not know why, but he wanted to see her again. The next morning, Paul was escorted beneath the waves in one of their living crafts. The vessel shimmered with lights like the glow of deep-sea creatures, and windows revealed the vast underwater cities of the ocean dwellers. Towers of coral and crystal rose from the seabed, lit by bioluminescent gardens. Schools of strange fish swam through the streets as if they were part of the city itself. Paul was brought before a great hall where alien nobles gathered. At the center sat Princess Nira, now dressed in flowing garments of pearl and shell. She looked stronger but still carried the softness of someone who had faced death and survived. When she saw Paul enter, her lips curved in a faint smile. She spoke clearly so that all could hear. This human risked his life to save mine. He braved the monstrous current and brought me back from the depths. I owe him a debt. The hall filled with murmurs. Some nobles frowned, distrust plain on their faces. Others looked thoughtful, perhaps reconsidering their view of humans. The king, tall and regal with eyes like molten silver, raised his hand for silence. You acted with courage, human, the king said. Few of our own dare to enter the monstrous currents. For saving my daughter, you have earned a place of honor in this court. But beware, for not all here will welcome you. Paul bowed slightly, feeling the weight of many eyes upon him. He had not come to make history. He had only wanted to save a life. Yet now he stood at the center of something far greater than he had imagined. As the hall emptied, Princess Nira approached him. Her voice was gentle, carrying the rhythm of the sea. You risked everything for me, though you did not know who I was. Why? Paul answered honestly. Because you were drowning. No one should face that alone. Her eyes searched his, as if seeking the truth behind his words. Then she nodded, a quiet strength in her expression. Perhaps you are not like the others. And so, in a world where humans were seen as strangers, Paul's single act of courage began to change everything. He did not know what future awaited him, but he knew this. His life had just become tied to the fate of an alien princess, and nothing would ever be the same again. Paul sat quietly in the guest chamber the ocean dwellers had given him. The walls shimmered with living coral that pulsed faintly as if it were alive. The furniture was shaped from smooth stone and glowing shells, and streams of water ran through channels in the floor, giving the place a sound like constant rainfall. It was strange and beautiful, nothing like the steel walls of human ships. He had been in the city of Aqualis for only a day, but already he felt the weight of countless eyes on him. The nobles who filled the halls whispered behind his back. Some stared with open suspicion, while others looked curious but cautious. He understood why. Humans had never been trusted here. The ocean dwellers had lived for centuries beneath the waves, proud and independent, and they had no desire for outsiders to disturb their world. Yet because of the rescue, Paul had been brought directly into their royal court. A soft sound drew his attention. Princess Nira entered the chamber, her steps light against the coral floor. She wore a gown woven from strands that shimmered like liquid silver, and her hair floated gently in the currents that always moved through the city. You look restless, she said in her gentle voice. Paul stood and gave a small nod. Your people do not trust me. I can feel it. Nira's lips curved into a faint smile. They do not trust easily, especially not humans. Stories of your kind reach us from the stars, and most of those stories are filled with conquest and greed. But you saved me without asking for reward. That is not something they expected. Paul met her gaze. I didn't think about reward. You were in danger. That was enough. For a moment, silence lingered between them. Nira studied him carefully as though searching for something deeper in his words. Then she motioned for him to follow. I want to show you our world, she said. Perhaps if you understand it, you will see why my people are so careful. They walked together through the great city beneath the sea. The streets were not streets in the human sense, but wide passages of flowing water. Creatures of light swam alongside them, and buildings of coral and crystal spiraled upward like towers grown from the ocean floor. Everywhere Paul looked, he saw signs of a civilization deeply tied to the sea. Children with small fins darted through schools of fish, laughing as they swam in playful circles. Merchants sold shells that glowed with stored light, or stones that hummed softly when touched. Warriors in gleaming armor patrolled the edges of the city, carrying weapons that shimmered with energy drawn from the ocean itself. It is beautiful, Paul said quietly. It is also fragile, Nira replied. The sea gives us life, but it can take it away just as quickly. The currents you fought are not natural. They grow stronger each season, and some believe the machines buried deep in the abyss are to blame. Paul frowned. Machines? Yes, she said. Long ago, before even our oldest records, something was built beneath the ocean floor. We do not know who made it or why. But now the machines stir again. They feed the monstrous currents that threaten to tear apart our cities. Many fear we cannot stop them. Paul listened closely. The words stirred a sense of purpose inside him. He was no stranger to broken machines or dangerous ruins. Humans had explored countless worlds, many filled with mysteries from ancient civilizations. If what Nira said was true, perhaps he could help. Have you tried to study them? He asked. Nira's eyes darkened. Some have tried. Few return. Those who do speak of shadows in the deep and currents strong enough to crush even the bravest. We guard our people, and so we avoid the abyss. Paul thought for a long moment. If the machines are the cause, then someone must face them. Hiding will not make the danger vanish. Nira studied him again, her gaze calm but firm. You speak as if you would face them yourself. If I must, Paul answered. I have seen storms on many worlds, and I have faced dangers that should have taken my life. I do not claim to be a hero, but I will not watch a world fall if I can help. Her expression softened, a faint glow in her eyes. Perhaps fate placed you here for a reason. As they walked back toward the palace, murmurs rose among the nobles who saw them together. Some scowled, clearly displeased by the sight of the princess walking beside a human. Others whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with suspicion. That evening, Paul was summoned to the council chamber. The king sat on a throne of carved coral, surrounded by advisors and nobles. Nira stood at his side. One of the nobles, a tall warrior with scales like dark steel, stepped forward. His voice rang with challenge. This human is not one of us. He should not walk our halls as if he belongs. How do we know his act of rescue was not a trick to win our trust? Murmurs filled the chamber. Paul kept his stance steady, though his heart beat fast. He had never been welcomed by a room full of hostile eyes before. The king raised his hand for silence, then turned to Paul. You have heard the doubts of my people. Do you have anything to say? Paul stepped forward. His voice was steady, though he knew every word mattered. I cannot change what you think of humans. I can only tell you the truth. I saw someone drowning and I could not leave her. That is all. If you wish to doubt me, doubt me. But I did not risk my life for reward or trickery. I did it because it was right. The hall grew quiet. The nobles shifted uneasily, some frowning, others thoughtful. Princess Nira spoke then, her voice clear and strong. I was there. He speaks truth. I owe him my life. If you doubt him, then you doubt me as well. The warrior noble glared but did not answer. The king's gaze swept over the chamber before he spoke again. For now, the human will remain under our watch. His actions have earned him a place here. Though not without caution, let it be known that he is not an enemy. The council ended and the nobles dispersed, though their whispers followed Paul out of the chamber. Some still distrusted him, perhaps even hated him, but others looked at him differently now, as though uncertain of what to believe. Later, Paul stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Nira joined him quietly. They will not all accept you, she said. Some will see you as a threat. Others will see you as a challenge. But you are here now, and that means you have a chance to change what they believe. Paul looked out at the vast ocean beyond the city. The current shifted in the distance, powerful and restless, a reminder of the danger beneath. Then I will not waste that chance, he said. Nira turned her eyes toward the sea as well, her voice almost a whisper. I believe you, Paul, and I think you may be the bridge our worlds need. The word settled deep within him. He had not come seeking honor or recognition. He had not planned to stand beside a princess or face the judgment of a foreign court. Yet here he was, and somehow it felt like the beginning of something greater. He looked at Nira, and for the first time, he wondered if saving her had changed not only her fate, but his own as well. Days passed in the underwater city of Aqualis, and Paul slowly adjusted to life among the ocean dwellers. He trained with guards to understand their unique combat style, learned the basics of their language more fluently, and explored the city with Nira as his guide. Everywhere he went, Paul saw evidence of a civilization perfectly in harmony with the sea. Towers of coral and crystal shimmered in soft light, and currents of water carried messages and goods alike. Despite the beauty around him, Paul sensed unease. Whispers followed him in the halls, eyes lingered with suspicion, and the nobles' stares often carried judgment. Some were openly hostile, their faces set in hard lines when Nira walked by his side. They did not believe a human could act without selfish intent. One morning, Paul was called to a private audience with Princess Nira. They met in a quiet garden carved from coral, where luminescent plants glowed softly in the currents. Schools of tiny fish swirled around the water streams that ran like pathways, creating a serene scene that contrasted sharply with the tension in the city. "Paul," Nira began, her voice steady, "there are those among my people who do not accept you. They want me to marry one of our warriors, someone who is loyal only to our kingdom. They do not trust outsiders," Paul frowned. "Do they truly believe I would harm you?" Nira shook her head. "Not exactly. They fear the unknown. Humans are unpredictable to them. They do not understand your intentions even after what you did." Paul studied her face. "And what about you?" Her eyes met his, bright with determination. "I know your heart, Paul. You risked your life without hesitation. That means more than the doubts of any noble, but I cannot ignore the danger your presence creates for me and for them." "You must be careful," Paul nodded. "I will be careful, but I cannot simply leave and let these currents continue to destroy your world." "You said the ancient machines are stirring, right?" "Yes," Nira said. "They were built long ago. Some believe they were meant to control the oceans. Others say they were left by beings from the stars. Whatever their purpose, they are waking, and the currents they create grow stronger each day." Paul leaned forward. "Then we need a plan. We need to find them and shut them down." Nira's lips pressed together. "Many have tried. Few return. The abyss where the machines lie is treacherous. The currents there are far stronger than the ones you faced when you rescued me. Even the bravest of our warriors fear it." Paul straightened his shoulders. "Then we will go together. I will not ask you to face this alone." Nira's gaze softened, but concern lingered. "It is dangerous, Paul. You may not survive. And if you die, it could destroy the trust between our people and yours." "I understand," Paul replied, "but I have never backed away from danger, and I will protect you at any cost." As they spoke, a group of nobles approached, their expressions sharp. The leader was the tall warrior Paul had met in the council. His fins flared slightly as he spoke, voice full of authority. "Princess Nira," he said, "you are putting yourself at risk by associating with this human. He is not one of us. Our people will not accept a foreigner meddling in the fate of Aqualis." Paul stepped forward calmly. "I am not here to meddle. I am here to help. If the currents are a threat, then ignoring them will only bring disaster. I am willing to face the danger even if you are not." The warrior's eyes narrowed. "It is not your place to decide. These waters are ours and you are a guest. You must respect our customs and step aside." Nira's voice rang out, firm and unyielding. "No, Paul saved my life. He has my trust. And if the currents threaten this world, I will not stand by while fear holds us back." The nobles murmured, some angered, others surprised by her boldness. Paul looked at Nira, admiration filling him. She was more than a princess. She was strong, wise, and brave, even in the face of threats. Later that day, Paul and Nira visited the edge of the abyss. The waters were dark, swirling with immense power. Currents twisted in spirals that vanished into the unknown depths. Even standing on the observation platform, the pull of the sea was palpable, tugging at every person nearby. "The machines lie down there," Nira explained, her voice tinged with unease. "And the deeper you go, the stronger the currents become. Many have tried to disable them, but none have succeeded." Paul peered into the abyss, calculating. "Then we need to be prepared. Equipment, training, and a clear plan. If the currents are unnatural, perhaps they can be shut down if we reach the right place." Nira nodded. "I will help you as much as I can. But understand, there are risks. The abyss has claimed the lives of our bravest warriors. If we fail, this city could be lost." Paul's jaw tightened. "We will not fail. Not if we go together." The next few days were spent gathering supplies and studying maps of the abyss. Paul learned about the creatures that dwelled in the deep waters, some as large as the city itself, others invisible until they struck. Nira taught him how to move with the currents, how to conserve energy, and how to read subtle signs in the water that could warn of danger. As they trained, tension in the city grew. The nobles watched Paul closely, whispering about the human who dared challenge tradition. Some openly scowled at him, while others tried to speak in his favor. But the most important voice was Nira's, and she continued to support him, standing firm against criticism and showing confidence in his abilities. One evening, Paul and Nira stood on a balcony overlooking the abyss. The sun had set and the water shimmered with the glow of bioluminescent creatures. Paul turned to Nira. "I never thought I would find myself here," he said, "facing monsters, ancient machines, and the judgment of an entire species. But I cannot turn away, not when so much is at stake." Nira placed a gentle hand on his arm. "And I will not let you face it alone. Together we can succeed where others have failed." "But you must trust me and I must trust you," Paul nodded. "I do, and I will, no matter what comes." The next morning the council summoned him again. The nobles were more tense than ever, debating his presence and the risks he represented. Paul stood before them calmly. "I am not here to claim power or wealth," he said. "I am here to help protect this world. The currents threaten every life in Aqualis. If we do nothing, we risk losing everything. I ask only for the chance to try." Nira stood beside him, her presence a shield against doubt. "He speaks the truth. We cannot allow fear to hold us back. Paul has shown courage, and I trust him. That is enough for me." The room fell silent. Even the sternest nobles could not deny the conviction in their voices. The king spoke finally, his tone deliberate. "Very well. You will proceed, human, but understand that failure will not only cost you your life, it may cost the trust between our worlds. Choose your actions wisely." Paul bowed respectfully. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will not fail." As the council dispersed, Paul turned to Nira. "We need to be ready. The abyss waits, and the currents will not give us mercy." Nira's eyes glimmered with determination. "We will face it together. Whatever dangers lie ahead, we will confront them side by side." That night, Paul could not sleep. The weight of the upcoming journey pressed on him, and yet there was a spark of excitement. This was no ordinary adventure. This was a chance to prove himself, not just to the aliens who doubted him, but to himself. And perhaps, he realized, it was a chance to forge a bond that could last a lifetime. He looked across the chamber at Nira, who slept quietly, her breathing steady despite the challenges ahead. Saving her had changed everything. Now, standing beside her in a world so different from his own, Paul felt a new sense of purpose. He did not yet understand what lay in the abyss or what dangers awaited, but he knew one thing with certainty: he would not turn away. Together, they would face the monstrous currents, confront the ancient machines, and discover whether courage, trust, and determination could truly bridge the gap between two very different worlds. The morning air of Aqualis was calm, but beneath the surface the sea roared. Paul and Nira stood at the edge of the observation platform, staring down into the abyss that had claimed so many lives. The swirling currents were darker and stronger than any Paul had ever faced. The water seemed alive, twisting and pulling as if it had a mind of its own. "This is where the machines lie," Nira said, her voice steady but low. "And this is where many have fallen. We must be careful," Paul nodded. "I have faced storms and monsters before, but I will not let this world fall. We will get through this together." Nira gave a small smile. "I believe you, Paul. But this will be a test not just of courage, but of trust, endurance, and strength. The currents will try to push us apart, the machines will try to destroy us, and the abyss itself will try to break our spirits. We must stay focused." They descended into the water in a specialized craft designed by the ocean dwellers. It was sleek and strong, shaped like a large fish with windows that allowed them to see the swirling chaos outside. The deeper they went, the darker it became. Strange creatures, some glowing and some shadowy, swam past in silence. Their shapes were foreign to Paul, yet he could sense they were not immediately hostile, simply curious or indifferent to the intruders. Hours passed as they descended deeper and deeper. The currents grew stronger, slamming the craft against the walls of the abyss. Paul's hands gripped the controls tightly, muscles straining as Nira read the instruments and directed him around dangerous spirals and whirlpools. Suddenly, the craft shook violently. A strong current hit them from the side, forcing the vehicle into a spin. Paul fought to regain control, using every ounce of his strength to steady them. Nira held his arm briefly, guiding his movements with calm precision. "Keep going. The machines are close." Finally, they reached a chamber deep in the abyss. Massive structures of metal and stone rose from the ocean floor, covered in coral and strange algae. The machines were huge, their surfaces etched with glowing symbols. Pulses of energy radiated outward, feeding the monstrous currents that twisted the water above. Paul and Nira exchanged a glance. This was it. The source of the danger, the currents that had threatened cities, the whirlpools that had claimed warriors. All were connected to these machines. They exited the craft, fully suited for deep-sea pressure, and swam toward the largest machine. Paul studied its structure, noting strange panels and glowing conduits. Nira touched one of the symbols lightly. This is the control panel. It is linked to all the machines. If we disable it, the currents will calm. Paul nodded. I will work on it. You protect me from the creatures that might be nearby. As they moved closer, the water seemed to shift around them. Dark shapes emerged from the shadows, creatures larger than any Paul had seen. Their bodies were armored with thick scales, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. They moved with purpose, as if defending the machines. Nira's fins flared as she positioned herself in front of Paul, creating a barrier. She summoned bursts of energy from the water, sending pulses that pushed the creatures back. Paul focused on the machine, carefully opening panels, pressing buttons, and analyzing symbols. The machine hummed with power, resisting his attempts, but he persisted, guided by instinct and intelligence. Hours passed. The creatures did not relent. Each pulse of energy from Nira slowed them, but the pressure of the abyss pressed on them both. Paul's arms grew tired, his lungs burned despite the oxygen supply. Yet he refused to stop. Every moment mattered. The city above, the people of Aqualis, the princess who trusted him, they depended on him. Finally, after careful adjustment, Paul activated the shutdown sequence. The machine's hum changed, its energy pulsing softer and softer until it stopped completely. Immediately, the currents above began to calm. The whirlpools weakened, and the water grew smoother. The creatures hesitated, then slowly retreated into the shadows, their duty complete. Paul turned to Nira, both of them exhausted but triumphant. It's done, he said. Nira smiled, her fins glowing faintly. You did it, Paul. You saved our world. They swam back to the craft, navigating carefully through calmer waters. The journey to the surface was still long, but the pressure of the abyss seemed lighter now. The currents that had once threatened to crush them were reduced to gentle flows. When they finally emerged from the depths, sunlight filtered through the water, sparkling on the surface. The city of Aqualis lay calm and peaceful above them. The nobles and citizens gathered at the shore, watching the arrival of the craft with awe. They had feared the worst, but now they saw proof of courage and strength beyond their expectations. Nira led Paul to the shore. You have faced the abyss, the machines, and the currents. You have proven your worth not as a human, but as someone who belongs here, at least in spirit. The nobles murmured, many now visibly impressed. Some still doubted, but the actions of Paul could not be ignored. Even the sternest warriors looked at him with respect. The king approached, his expression calm but powerful. You have faced trials that many of our bravest could not survive. You have saved our people and restored balance to our waters. For this we honor you. Paul bowed, feeling a mix of relief and pride. I did what I had to do. It was Nira who guided me and helped protect me. Without her, none of this would have been possible. Nira stepped forward, her voice clear. He has risked everything. He has earned our trust and respect. Let none here doubt that courage comes in many forms and loyalty can cross worlds. The people of Aqualis cheered, some clapping, others raising their hands in acknowledgement. For the first time, Paul felt fully accepted in this alien world. It was a strange feeling, but one he welcomed with all his heart. That night, Paul and Nira sat together in the palace garden. The water flowed softly around them, carrying the faint glow of bioluminescent plants. Paul looked at Nira, her face serene but strong. You are amazing, he said. I could not have done it without you. Nira smiled faintly. And I could not have done it without you. You faced the abyss when many would have turned back. That courage is rare. Paul paused, reflecting. You know, before this, I never thought I would find someone like you. Someone who trusts me, who stands by me in danger. I never realized how much that matters in life. Nira tilted her head. Do you mean you care? Paul nodded slowly. Yes, more than I expected. I think I need someone like you in my life. Someone to share these challenges, these victories, and even the quiet moments. I never thought I would say this, but I realize now. I need a partner. A wife. Nira's eyes widened, but a smile spread across her face. I have seen many humans, Paul, but few like you. Brave, kind, and willing to risk everything for others. If you ask, I would stand with you, not only as princess, but as your partner, your equal. Paul's heart swelled.
Then, will you?
Yes, she said softly. I will. The moment was quiet, but full of meaning. The abyss, the machines, the currents, they had tested him, and he had proven himself. But this connection, this trust and bond with Nira, felt like the greatest victory of all. As the stars shimmered above the surface of the ocean, Paul realized that his life had changed forever. He had faced unimaginable dangers, conquered the abyss, and saved an entire world. And now he had found someone who would share that life with him. The future was uncertain, but for the first time Paul felt ready to face it. Together with Nira, he would build a life that bridged their worlds, proving that courage, trust, and love could overcome any challenge. The storm was gone at last. The monstrous current had grown calm, and the waves that once roared across the alien ocean now rested like a sleeping giant. The people of Mira's world gathered along the water's edge, looking out at the horizon where the sea beast had vanished into the deep. It had taken every ounce of courage, planning, and unity to drive it back. The villages still carried scars from the struggle, yet there was hope glowing in every face. Aaron stood among them, weary but unbroken. His arms ached, his breath felt heavy, and his body carried bruises from the fight, yet his eyes remained steady. He had fought not for his own survival, but for a world that had once doubted him. The people who had called him reckless now looked at him with respect. They whispered his name, and children pointed at him with wide eyes filled with wonder. Mira walked toward him. Her gown, once torn by the waves, had been wrapped in silver cloth by the palace attendants, but her spirit remained as fierce as when she stood beside him against the beast. She did not care for the formality of her title at that moment. She cared only that Aaron still stood before her, alive. When she reached him, her hand touched his arm gently. "You did it," she said in a soft voice. "We did it," Aaron replied, his tone quiet but filled with truth. "Without your knowledge, I would have been lost in those waters. I only carried strength. You carried wisdom." Mira smiled, though her eyes shimmered with unspoken emotion. Around them, the council members approached, their expressions uneasy. For many days they had spoken against Aaron, calling him an intruder and a risk. Now the truth was plain. He had risked his life for their people, and the monster that haunted their waters was gone because of him. The eldest counselor bowed his head. "Human," he said with a voice touched by humility. "Our judgment was harsh. We doubted your purpose, yet you have shown honor. You stood when no one else dared. The sea owes you its calm, and our people owe you our thanks." Aaron bowed his head in return, but he spoke with honesty. "I did not fight for thanks. I fought because it was right. Life is worth saving no matter whose it is. You see me as human and outsider, but I see you as people who love your homes and families. That is enough reason to stand with you." The council members murmured among themselves. Many were humbled by his words. Some still carried pride, but even they could not deny what had happened before their eyes. When the crowd dispersed, Mira remained with Aaron near the quiet shore. The sun of her world began to set, painting the sky with rivers of gold and red. For a time neither spoke. The silence was not empty but full of meaning. Mira turned to him, her eyes reflecting the colors of the horizon. "Aaron," she said gently, "when you pulled me from the current, I thought I only owed you my life. I believed my duty was to thank you and move forward. But these days have shown me more. You did not only save me once, you saved me again and again, not just with your strength but with your heart. I cannot look at you as a stranger anymore." Aaron felt his chest tighten. He had thought these same words in silence many times, but never allowed himself to speak them. He feared her people would never allow such closeness, feared that she carried duties too great for such a bond. Yet now, with her standing before him and speaking with such honesty, he could not keep his truth hidden. "Mira," he said, "I never planned this. I came to explore, to learn, to understand the stars. I never thought I would find someone who would make the stars themselves seem less important. When I looked into your eyes, I saw more than a princess. I saw someone I could share my life with. For the first time, I feel I need not only the skies above me, I need someone beside me." Mira's lips parted and a small breath escaped her. She had hoped for these words, yet hearing them filled her with warmth deeper than she imagined. "You speak of need," she whispered, "and I feel the same. I was raised to carry duty, to protect my people and to honor the traditions of my world. Yet I have never felt complete. With you, Aaron, I feel whole. My heart has found a voice, and it speaks your name." The waves lapped softly at the shore as if listening. The alien sky, filled with twin moons, spread its silver glow upon them. For a long moment they stood together, their hands touching, hearts beating with the rhythm of new promise. From a distance many watched. Some were curious, some uncertain, but none could deny the bond that had formed. A young child's voice broke the silence among the onlookers. "Is he going to stay with her?" the child asked. And though the question was simple, it carried weight. Aaron heard it, and he looked at Mira with clarity. His travels across the galaxy had always been restless. He had never stayed long in one place. But now he knew the truth. His journey had been leading here all along. "Yes," Aaron said aloud, his voice strong and clear. "I will stay." Mira smiled, and in her smile was both relief and joy. Her people needed strength, and she had found it not in armies or power, but in the heart of a single human who had chosen to stand beside them. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. The council, though surprised, did not argue. The elder who once doubted him now spoke softly. "Perhaps the stars bring us gifts we do not expect. If unity is what you both choose, then let it be so. Our world has seen fear. Now let it see hope." The days that followed were filled with rebuilding. Villages restored their homes, ships were repaired, and families returned to peace. Aaron worked beside them, lifting stones, guiding repairs, sharing laughter with those who had once looked at him with suspicion. Mira often stood at his side, and together they became a symbol of what two worlds could achieve. When the great Festival of Waters came, the people gathered in celebration. Bright lanterns floated across the rivers, music echoed through the air, and dancers moved like flowing currents. In the heart of the celebration, Mira stood before her people and spoke. "My life was once taken by the waters and returned by a stranger, but he is no stranger now. He is a part of me and a part of you all. Today I choose not only to thank him, but to share my life with him. Aaron has become my bond, my companion, my chosen one." The crowd erupted with cheers, and Aaron, though unused to such ceremony, bowed with respect. His heart beat with pride and calm joy. For the first time, he knew he was not just a traveler. He was home. Later that night, beneath the twin moons, Aaron and Mira walked together along the riverbank. The lanterns drifted around them, glowing like stars upon the water. Aaron looked at her and said, "All my life I searched the skies for meaning. I thought I would find it in distant worlds or ancient ruins. But the truth is simpler. Meaning is found in someone who believes in you. And I have found that in you." Mira rested her head against his shoulder. "And I in you," she replied. Together they stood in silence, watching the river flow gently into the distance. The monstrous current that once threatened to destroy everything had been conquered, but what truly mattered was the bond born from those storms. A human had come as an outsider, but he stayed as family. The galaxy was vast and uncertain, but Aaron no longer feared it. With Mira beside him, he had all he needed, and so the tale of the human and the alien princess was carried in whispers and songs across the stars, a story of courage, unity, and love. Humanity had once again shown its strength not only in battle but in heart.